It is a brutal day in the markets on the back of a U.S. credit downgrade by Fitch. We are seeing absolute red everywhere. Crypto, stocks. You know what's going up? The VIX. You know what's going up? The dollar. You know what's going up? Some longer-term treasuries. It is ugly out there. We fucking called it months ago. We're gonna get into that in a second. I am hot today. I am hot around the collar. Before we get going, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice. We are not financial advisors, so do your own research before making any buys or sells. Kevin, we got the news last night around 6:30 Eastern that Fitch had downgraded the U.S.'s credit from AAA to AA+. That is the first time we've had a downgrade since August of 2011. 2 months ago, when the debt ceiling crisis was going on, you and I said to look out for this, that in 2011, they didn't default, but they got down to the wire, and that's when they were downgraded by S&P. And what happened when that took place? A 9% drop in the Nasdaq in the 3 days following it. What are we seeing right now? Only a 2% downgrade to this point in the Nasdaq. More to come. So I'm not saying that we know everything and that we're the smartest people in the world, because we're not. But we sure as fuck know a lot more than these goddamn finance influencers who are out here saying that the credit rating drop doesn't matter, that it's just, that's arbitrary, that there's no point in this, that people shouldn't be concerned. The fuck you shouldn't be concerned. This is a fucking problem, and it's really highlighting a lot of issues we got right here. I'm fucking hot. God damn it. I'm jacked.
Jack to the tits, man, dude. You watch back this video later on. I just got a shit-eating grin right now. It's just, I had no idea. I'm sorry, I can't contain it. It's we've been calling this for the longest, right? And I think it's so fucking comical that everyone's saying that this downgrade is arbitrary and it means nothing. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot. We just uncapped fucking debt ceiling for 2 years, right? And we're spending more money than fucking ever. And we also just recently printed the most amount of money in the U.S. history, right? You know what? That's totally arbitrary. It's on past data. The economy looks great. Well, maybe the ADP numbers today are painting a different light when it comes to that too. We are in such a fucked place. And here's the best part about it. There are so many issues in different sectors of the economy that could absolutely blow up, and they're all hitting at one time. I mean, you got fucking inflation, you got housing, you got the one massive fucking credit, meltdown that's going to happen. And this is not just in the US, this is fucking globally. I think we're at the cusp of an absolute fucking global meltdown, margin call. We're going to see everything. And the best part about it is the global market's going to call bullshit on what the U.S. has been doing for the past, I don't know how long, since fucking we started printing this money. The U.S. absolutely has been telling you the truth that everything's great. And we're having all these people that are telling us exactly what we want to hear. But guess what? It's bullshit. I'm glad that we live in a world where we can call bullshit and money speaks. And we're going to see that fucking come to fruition in the next 12 months.
Okay, here's why this isn't, for the people out there saying it's arbitrary and it doesn't matter. I don't care if it's Janet Yellen saying it, if it's Mohammed El-Arian, who I respect greatly, is a really smart guy, far smarter than me, but you're wrong on this one. Or it's the Vibe Session lady, Kyla Scanlon, whatever her name is. Here's why this matters. This is a bigger picture problem than just the fact that we almost hit the debts, that we almost let the debt ceiling, just like everything collapse and default. Okay. Like, this is pointing out a lot of issues in this country. We have seen $1.4 trillion added to the deficit in the first 9 months of this fiscal year. That is fucking bananas. That is terrible. We've already seen the borrowing forecast increase to this quarter alone to $1 trillion, which is above the $733 billion the Fed had predicted back in May. We are seeing that countries are not trusting the U.S. And why the fuck would they? There are so many issues around the fact that, number one, we're not getting, everything right now is predicated around winning an election. Yep, and I get 100%. That. People want to win their fucking election. But when you're giving shitty data and not being truthful with what the fuck is actually going on, people get blindsided by shit like this unless they watch our fucking show. So that's part of the problem here, is we are seeing debt out of control. We're seeing consumer credit out of control. Credit card debt's going to pass $1 trillion. People can't get a fucking mortgage. Interest rates are through the roof. Debt's going to keep accumulating. It's a fucking problem. And these people either are too stupid to realize it, or they got their head shoved so far up their ass, they're not willing to see the light of day and call it for what it is. Jesus Christ, I'm going to have an aneurysm on camera today.
You're definitely going to have an aneurysm, but it's 100% justified, because this is absolute insanity. And maybe this is very similar to The Big Short, right? We were talking about how a lot of the stuff that's happening could be fraudulent, or maybe it's just fueled by stupidity. I think it is fueled by stupidity, right? I think a lot of us, both retail and big institutional investors, are being really fucking dumb. Clearly, I think that the people who are in charge are definitely making some stupid ass decisions. I won't get into the politics of that, but again, we are.
I will.
Okay,
I will
be
for
my
a second.
guest. Be my
I will
guest.
for a second. I'll get into the politics of this. Everyone's a moron. Everyone in Washington,
Agreed.
bunch of fucking idiots. Like Republican, Democrat, they're all morons.
100%.
Like they can't agree on anything. They can't see the forest for the trees. All they can see is keeping their constituents, who many of them are mouth breathers, very happy for the short term by being divisive, by not working with the other side, by not doing what's in the best interest of the American people and the economy here. All they want to do is fight and bicker and fight and bicker. And it's just fucking infuriating. And the only way to deal with this shit is to vote these assholes out of office. And I mean, I don't know who we're going to replace them with. More assholes, because no sane person wants to go deal with all this bullshit right now. That's my political rant for the day. Jesus fucking Christ.
So obviously, like back in high school and stuff like that, I feel like I was a little bit more political. And then as I got older, it was like I realized none of this politics shit stuff really matters. It's more about economics, where you're going to find more of your freedom from. 100%, I feel like that's what people need to have, that mindset, because if you're focused on what the fuck Joe Biden and Trump's doing, or who's getting arrested or whatever, you're missing the big picture of what's going to impact you the most in the next 20 to 30 years, right? This is a generational opportunity of wealth that could be created, but instead we're going to see it just absolutely disappear. And if you're a big fan of Ray Dalio, which I am, I've been reading Changing World Order, you see that there's these points within a cycle of when a nation becomes a world power to where it gets to the height, and then you get to the, where it absolutely starts to fall. And part of the fall is printing the most amount of money in the nation's history, which we've done. And it's also having political factions absolutely divide the country. So you don't really know what's true, what isn't. People are just choosing sides. And a lot of it's about, redistribution of wealth versus those who want to keep it in power. That's where we are right now, right? Does that really impact anything that we're doing? Absolutely. It does impact it, but I think it's more of a mindset. In other words, make as much fucking money as you possibly can, and you don't have to worry about any of this bullshit, because we are definitely in a place where the country that we are in is absolutely vying and dying for a place just to retain power to people who have it. And at the end of the day, the absolute economic landscape is fucked. And it's not just us, it's the entire global economy. And this is arguably one of the most dangerous points right before anything is going to happen, is this credit down rating, because now it's going to be so extremely fucking hard for the US to borrow. And who's it going to affect? Taxpayers. Is going to affect absolutely everyone in the United States. I mean, we're even something so stupid as yesterday is that we aren't fucking refilling our petroleum reserves. Now we're going to wait to buy it at a higher price. I'm sorry, maybe we're getting a bit of a pullback in oil today, but it's not going to pull back as much as people are expecting. I think that going into 2024, we're going to see the entire global economy call bullshit on the US. And Mr. House, you made a great point about this earlier. Iran, Russia, and China are absolutely going to just pretty much screw the US, I think, in any way possible, whether that's through commodities or energy. I think that's the way that we've seen it. It's going to absolutely exacerbate the inflation problem, and it's just going to make people so mad. It's going to absolutely divide people in this country going into an election year. And this is, I mean, if we're talking about Ray Dalio here and the changing world order, is this the point where we start to see, some of these other countries, these world powers, start to take more dominance over the US? Possibly. So this is an absolute joke. If we're not taking this seriously, then we're not living in a fucking reality.
Yeah, completely agree. We're already seeing, a lot of these emerging countries make big strides. Like India's
kicking ass,
gigantic, and they are just, they're middle class. And what do you also see when things start to fail is the shrinking of the middle class. And India's is going the other way. They're expanding their middle class. Like that's a good thing. Here in the U.S., I saw an estimate that by 2030, 40% of residential homes are going to be owned by by private companies. Like this is serfdom 2.0. Like the majority of people in this country, are not going to be able to own a home. Like they already can't. Like it's impossible. And so we're just going to be beholden to these giant fucking conglomerates who, if you aren't trying to accumulate assets right now and you're content living paycheck to paycheck, that's fine. You do your thing. You're going to be so pissed at yourself down the road, but whatever. It's like, this is just a point of, okay, batten down the hatches. Let's fucking survive in advance. Let's accumulate assets. Let's try to make sure that we aren't reliant on any of these fucking companies for anything. Like it's fucking scary out there, man. Like, part of me is just like, maybe I just move out into the mountains and take my family out there and just get the fuck away, because I don't like what I'm seeing.
I'm going to tell you guys all one thing right now. This is not financial advice. This is just advice in general for being a human being in this world. If you have the opportunity to get a second citizenship, get that shit as soon as possible. I'm not telling you to go fucking, invest in the Caribbean and get a passport in 3 to 4 months. But if you have the opportunity, say citizenship by descent or any of that, always have a backup plan where you can economically save your ass and your children's ass in the future. It's one of the most important things you could possibly be doing. I'm in the process of trying to get one. It's just protect yourself and protect your wealth. It's the most important thing. And again, another thing from Ray Dalio is that once we start to see a lot of people leave the country who have wealth, and we're just taxing pretty much the middle class and the poor to death because the money has to come from somewhere, then they keep people from fleeing the country. That's what we've seen in history, where people aren't allowed to get more than one citizenship. They either have to relinquish theirs or get another one. So just think ahead. Always think macro. Think like how China does. Don't think in terms of decades or centuries. Think in terms of millennia. That's all I got to say.
Okay. Let's take, I know we're going to keep it a little bit shorter today, but let's take a look at the charts. Let's try to keep it high level today. Let's not get too nitty gritty if possible, because there's a lot to look at here. We are seeing, the Nasdaq down almost 2%, S&P down over 1%, Dow down 0.75%. We got the VIX up just under 16, DXY almost at 102.5. Bitcoin took a nice pump last night, but when we saw it, yesterday evening, not getting past that 30,000 mark, once again, it was a sign of this is just, the initial thought was like, people are going to move into a safe haven asset like Bitcoin because it's, deflationary, like blah, blah, blah. But as soon as it hit 29,950, it couldn't bust past it. It couldn't get past 30. It started creeping down, and now it is on its way back to 20. It was under 29 for a little bit. It's reclaimed that. But, I'm not expecting us to see any huge moves in crypto anytime soon. That is for sure.
Again, is it still possible that we get to 34, 35K? Sure. I don't see it happening though. And yesterday I said on the show, I think it's becoming less and less likely. It's just, we're not seeing the price action reflect, a potential squeeze or anything like that. We were seeing that the longs and shorts are pretty much fucking even across the board for the past 24 hours in all these exchanges when we looked at them yesterday. That just tells me that people who want to buy are buying, but at the same time, people who want to sell are selling. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because that's just redistributing, assets from one person to another. You don't necessarily see the lopsidedness of people overly buying into the market, which is what you need to see. You need to see extremely high volumes and institutional players coming in. We're not seeing that at all. And that's why we're not breaking above 20, 30K, 31K. It's an absolute clusterfuck. But if we look at Nasdaq real quick, because we were talking about this for the monthly close, I said that we were in this three move wave to the downside. This is a corrective pattern, so ABC, and maybe it's more of like a flat or descending or zigzags. It's going to be one of those moves, but we can see that it came all the way up to this level up here. And if we're just looking at this on the daily, I'm sure we can be assholes about it today and say that everything's down today, so of course it's going to bounce off that. But look where it bounced right off of it, and the news broke that Fitch dropped the credit rating. It's within the channel again, and it bounced right off what the top resistance would have been. So we have to really keep in mind, it's like, okay, if the charts have been right in the past, especially when we look at, what happened in 2011, are the charts going to be right again moving forward? I can't guarantee you that, because obviously we're in a different place. There's a lot more money in circulation than there was back in 2011. But the good thing is that we're seeing a very similar reaction. So we could potentially be in a place where it's like, okay, maybe this is the top of the market. Maybe we consolidate here for a few days. I still think that there is more downside given what we've seen in the past. But I don't know if we're going to put in a higher high. And maybe this is me being ballsy and early saying this is the top of the market. I definitely don't think that this is the bottom of the market. Let's put it that way. I think we're very close to the point where it's like, okay, that's it. There's nothing more beyond here for the time being. So let's just start opening some shorts and drag the entire world with us. Or maybe the entire global market just absolutely takes everything down with it. But for the Nasdaq right now, it found that resistance and it's right back down underneath it. I think that we're going to be trading in this for a while. And then again, if we come down to this 14,354, which I know is about 1,000-point drop from here, I'm very confident that we're probably going to be losing that, and that we're going to start to see this C wave, down here absolutely come to fruition. But again, there's a lot of things that have to come into play, but there are a lot of things on the forecast that definitely seem like they are going to be, hitting us sometime in the next 12 months. So definitely keep an eye on that. And I'm saying 12 months because obviously.
So here's why I think it's going to be worse. I think the move we're going to see is going to be worse than what we saw in 2011.
Okay.
Number one, in 2011, we weren't coming off the back of a monster move up in the markets the way that we are right now, right? Like valuations were nowhere near as high as there. So I think we're going to see a worse move in both, maybe not in a 3-day span, maybe it's like a 5 to 7 day span, but I think we're going to see a worse move now than we did in 2011, just due to the fact that valuations are so incredibly high. There's so much money in circulation. There's so much debt out there. And we've seen this unbelievable, we're coming off of 5 straight months of the Nasdaq being up. Back in 2011, that wasn't the case. We were coming off the heels of, the Great Recession. Like it was 9% down when we were like starting to like recover, like when the recovery was just getting going, not on the back of the hottest start to the Nasdaq in history.
I agree. I mean, that's a great point. That's a really good point too. Obviously, again, we're in a different place than we were back then. And again, this is why I honestly believe that we're going for that triple dip recession, man. I think that everyone kind of agrees that the COVID, 17 days, whatever it was, that's considered a recession. I agree with that, even though it really isn't, because it was just so short-lived. And then we got the other one when negative GDP growth hit 2 quarters of negative growth back to back, right? We didn't call it a recession. But now it looks like we're probably going to go into a recession, most likely, if everything makes sense in terms of this collapse. But from what I'm seeing here, we're hitting all these resistances. And again, we've had some of the strongest starts of the year. I think that this is going to be a pretty massive move to the downside. And I'm looking at just the Dow right now. We were talking about, this parallel channel that it's putting in. I mean, guys, it hit the fucking top of the parallel channel, and now it's starting to find some red, and it looks like it's going to be coming down, right? We're extremely overbought. I mean, look at this stochastic RSI down here. I don't have the volumes up, by the way. Let me just pull that up. There's no volumes for this. Okay, bullshit. Let's look at the weekly. We're completely overbought on the weekly, and we're finding resistance right here at the top, right? This news today isn't fucking this is not good for long-term outlook in terms of speculation on where equities can go, indices are going to end up. I think this is more of a reality check, and it's like, okay, maybe this is it, guys. This is it. We're at the top of a channel that looks like it should break down. The dollar's kicking ass, and everything is selling off today. We're still pretty high compared to where we've been this entire move. Maybe this is the time to start building short positions. So that's the one thing we're going to have to keep an eye on going in throughout August. Can
you imagine what is going to happen to the Nasdaq on Friday if Apple and Amazon earnings come in anything but perfect? We talked about this yesterday. Like everything has to be perfect right now for a stock's valuation to move up post earnings. And if we have all of this concern out there, and we're still massively overbought on the monthly, I know it's only the second day of the month, we're still massively overbought on the monthly. If tomorrow afternoon, Apple and Amazon don't report stellar earnings, watch the fuck out. Friday, and we got, Coinbase. By the way, that Coinbase short call the other day at 99 was, I wish I would have followed through on that, but neither here nor there.
I haven't even seen it lately.
I think Coinbase, it's down, currently at 90.44.
Could have had a nice little.
It was down almost 4% today.
Yeah, could have had a nice little short there. I'm sorry, man. Is what it is.
All good. Is what it is. No worries. But if if Apple comes in and their earnings aren't great, if Amazon's earnings aren't great, it's going to be a bloody Friday. Like I'm talking Nasdaq could, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw the Nasdaq on Friday take like a 3, 4, 5% hit. Like it could be, honestly, we might hit greater than 9% in 3 days. Like we're set up for it. We didn't even talk about the jobs data this morning because that seems so secondary at this moment.
Yeah, I got time. Let's roll with it.
Private sector jobs number came in almost double expectation. This is the same number last month. They came in almost triple expectation. There's just so many jobs being taken, but I know, Kevin, you dived deeper into the numbers and saw that it was a lot of lower paying jobs,
Yep.
potentially people having to take on a second or even third job just to pay the fucking bills, which is just brutal, man. Like,
Yeah, man.
it kind of breaks my, like, I'm so fortunate that I'm not in that position, but it fucking breaks my heart because people are having to work nonstop just to get by, just to get their families by. And it's really, like, I feel for them, man. Like, it's fucking terrible.
Oh, 100%. Dude, I worked 3 jobs for 3 years, and it was just nonstop fucking you kill yourself doing it. And again, I don't have a family that I have to take care of, but there are people who absolutely have to, they have kids to raise, they have, they have their husband, their wife that they have to account for, bills and shit like that. And again, the price of everything's been going up, and we're lying to ourselves. And now we're seeing energy start to go up, gas is going up. We're seeing absolute deficits in terms of energy. People are absolutely going to get killed. I'm not killed like fucking like murdered, but people are their pockets are going to be absolutely destroyed by the end of this, and it's sad. And it's very similar to what we saw in The Big Short, right? For every 1% that unemployment goes up, was it 40,000 people die?
Mhm.
I mean, I could definitely see how that happens. It's absolutely devastating, but it's we are where we are because of people that have made decisions for us. And I won't say that retail is absolutely innocent. We're in the credit situation because retail has the ability to continue spending when they probably shouldn't, buying things that they don't need. But again, also goods going up is going to fucking impact that. So everything's so intertwined. I wanted to pull up AMD real quick because I know we've talked about
Getting
Nvidia.
crushed.
It's getting
Yeah,
crushed.
NBA is getting crushed today too.
So here's the thing: if Nvidia absolutely just tanks and shits, you don't understand how much that could bring down this entire market. This could absolutely take down the entire. I mean, I'm talking about Nasdaq, S&P, sure, and Dow obviously too. But for Nasdaq, if one of these big seven, the 7 stocks of the apocalypse, absolutely just tank, guys, that's gonna be fucking scary. Like I'm shit you not. I pulled up the tech bubble in the 2000s, .com bubble, and I put the two charts next to each other. It's the same exact fucking pattern. And the rebound that we got before it crashed majorly is almost identical. It was from 39 versus 37%, where it was then to where it is now. And then it went up 50 something percent because people started buying even more this time, as opposed to 44% last time. If it drops, that's so. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up, guys. Let's do it real quick. Fucking now I'm getting fucking jacked to the tits. Let's pull this up right here. Where is it daily? That's why it's taking forever. There it is. All right. So we see that chart down here, and then we look at this one up here. Let me just remove this three-way move. We know where it is. And then let's remove this. I can just fix this. Let's get rid of all this shit. Look at that compared to that. It's almost identical, guys. And if that drop happens, which down here would have been top to bottom, it's an 81% drop for tech stocks. Is that possible? I don't know. Probably. I'm bearish, but this is a scary thing. It's a reality that we have to keep in mind. And 80, what's 80%? Let's say 70%, just 70%, just to be somewhat reasonable. That's puts us at 4,672 for the Nasdaq. Imagine if more than one of these big stocks absolutely goes tits up, right? I'm not saying like they go under, but I'm saying like say Netflix goes down to that $100, like I think it will. That's just going to drag everything down with it. And people are going to be forced to panic sell because they're like, oh my goodness, this isn't stopping. I need to have cash on fucking hand. The prices of goods and everything are going up. I need to make sure I'm able to pay my bills. We could be in an absolute vortex, just one spiral where everyone's just selling everything because there's no other choice to. A little bit dark, scary, but just perspective. Perspective is going to save your ass every
Dude,
fucking chat.
all of the big seven are set up for, disappointing on earnings, and they are all still massively overbought on the monthly. Like, this is a recipe for August to be, but like I know you said you're expecting like September, October. August could be fucking brutal, man. Like,
Yeah, we've seen August go down before.
All the time.
Yeah.
Everyone was getting hyped. The FOMO trade was happening. The AI excitement was happening. And now it's just people will be like, oh, okay, it's just a little pullback, like blah, blah, blah.
Let me show you how fucking far I could pull this fucking shit back. That's what's going to happen. The market's going to.
Like, just have cash ready. And as soon as people start really panicking, I'm not looking to catch the bottom of this, but I'm also waiting until we are at peak fear, because we're not even close to peak fear yet.
I
Like a
got
2% move down in one day is not
exactly.
anywhere. Like there's still so much more to go. So
That's what
we're
I'll say. Enjoy the view because you're at the top.
listen, it's gonna go down, and we're gonna be here for the entire ride with you, because we're not going anywhere. If some of these people out there on these other shows, who have these huge platforms, are going to keep painting a rosy picture when it's clearly not rosy, then I'm sure as fuck not going anywhere. And Kevin and I are going to keep saying the goddamn truth, because we're not in this to, like, get 10 million followers. We're not trying to be these people. We want to just give good fucking advice. And that's what we're going to fucking do here. Let's wrap it up with Binance, and then we'll call it a day. I know you got somewhere to be, and my blood pressure is too high right now.
Take some baby aspirin, baby. I don't know. That's probably going to be the best option. That's from Step Brothers, right? I take baby aspirin. Regardless,
I take baby aspirin.
BNB. We saw that the DOJ is potentially bringing up some charges against Binance, right? The exchange saw pretty good sell-off. That's really down here. We're down about $6.09 today. If we look at this on probably have to go in the smaller time frames to take a look at how this has been reacting, right? Look at this fucking shit. Look at this Ponzi. This is the one that I was talking about yesterday, where it shot up fucking like $630 million just to go sideways. Put in head and shoulders. Look at this head. That's a shoulder, head, shoulder, down. Fuck yeah. But then we saw this green push to the upside. I think people are, buying in, saying, you know what, this is maybe people are overreacting. Good. If they are overreacting, they got out at a better time than most likely people that are buying right now. I'm not saying that's financial advice whatsoever. I'm just saying, for me, when it went to 248 last night, I shorted a little bit more Binance, just because I was like, I think people are overreacting to how this is going to be, a big nothing for the credit rating dropping. So when I look at Binance now, and we get the news that the DOJ is likely to bring charges, where nothing verified yet, but we're getting some of the rumors that it's coming out. Guys, if that fucking happens, I don't know what's going to happen here for Binance. I think that we're going to see something very similar to the XRP versus SEC, when the SEC said, XRP, you are a security. Coinbase, take that shit off there right now. And that was back in January of 2021 or something like that. I think it's very possible you could see a drop like that for Binance. And the main reason I believe that is because people are going to panic, right? Obviously, people are going to panic. Is there going to be anything done, even if they bring charges? I don't know. CZ's is in Saudi Arabia, so unless they go after that fucker, they're not going to really do anything. The exchanges probably still be operating, but there is no support underneath this 210 level. We're maybe a little bit at like 145, but if we just start seeing that panic sell happen, unless we find new support out of nowhere, I think that we're going down fucking deep. If this happens, if this comes out. And here's the thing. I've always said this. I don't think that if Binance collapses, this is the end of the bear market for crypto. We still have extremely tight credit conditions that are going to definitely impact people all across the world, not just in the US, but, people that are going to be buying crypto in Europe, in, Asia. We're not out of this. We could see Binance collapse and Bitcoin can go down to 20K, right? But then we could see the entire global market absolutely collapse, and then we could see Bitcoin go down to like 10K, and then alts obviously would drop maybe 50 to 80% both times. It's very possible. It's going to be a very illiquid market. It's extremely scary to think about that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, we're going to start seeing some of these moves happen, but we can't just assume that every time something bad happens, that's the end of the bear market. No, we will know it's the end of the bear market when, I don't know, I guess when everyone is fucking just like, okay, the world's over. I don't want to look at this shit anymore. I give up. You start seeing less tweets, I guess. Maybe that's when the end of the bear market comes in. But right now, when I see this and people are still excited trying to buy back some of this FUD that came out about the DOJ with Binance, guys, think macro. So that's all I can say. Definitely remain solvent and think macro, because that's going to be the thing that saves your ass throughout all of this. Have cash flow. Just don't do what the other guys are doing. That's all I could say. But it's not financial advice. It's more of just don't be stupid right now. This is a very important time, and you don't want to be caught off guard or too far out over your skis in an absolutely critical point we are in this market right now.
Yep, I could not agree more. I think that is how we're going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow, a little bit later than usual. We're going to be live during the Amazon and Apple earnings. I think we'll probably go live right around like 3:45 Eastern time, so we can, kind of chat about what's going on in the markets, let the earnings come out, see how the market reacts. This is going to be a fun rest of the week. It is going to be.
I love it.
It's going to be bloody. It's going to be a roller coaster of emotions. People are going to start panicking. Stay calm. Keep your head on. We're in this for the long haul. We are not going to panic on this show. Okay, we're going to take in the information. We're going to look at it arbitrarily and make the best decisions possible. But you're going to make your own decisions because we're not financial advisors. Blah blah blah.
Exactly.
Blah. Okay, if you have not yet, do us a favor. Hit the buttons down below. Like, subscribe, comment, share us out on social media. All of those things are important and matter to us a ton. Ace, Mr. House, appreciate you guys being here as always. To anyone who watches back later, thank you so much for continuing to support Kevin and I. We'll be back tomorrow, later than usual, but it's going to be a good one nonetheless. So pop some popcorn, get a cocktail ready for a little Thursday happy hour because we're going to bring some fucking heat tomorrow because I'm jacked to the tits. And that is it. We are out. Later, everybody.
Take care, everyone.